It's a beautiful summer day, and I thought I would roll out my diesel fleet. So this is my parade of old Mercedes diesels. You know, this whole passion of mine with Mercedes started 25 years ago when a friend of mine convinced me to buy a 1982 240D, and that's what this one is right here. A 1982 240D, but this is a 4-speed, and the one I purchased was an automatic. And I remember going for my first drive in that car thinking, man, this thing's a dog. But then I got it on this windy road going around the lake, and I thought, man, this Mercedes, the old 240D, handled a lot better than a lot of sports cars that I had owned, because I had previously been into sports cars and hot rods. I was a car guy, you know, since junior high school. Second Mercedes that I bought, probably within 3 weeks of getting this 240D, was a car similar to this. It was a 280 SE Euro W116 1978. And that car there is a diesel. So this one had a gas engine. I remember taking that down a rough gravel, pot-filled, and I got the car up to about 75 miles an hour, and I could not believe how well that car handled. And that's what started it all. It was all about the handling, the ride, the road feel, the brake feel, everything designed into those older Mercedes-Benz. It just really fascinated me. And so here I am today. You know, it's probably going to end with a 240D. No, not really, but I thought you'd be interested in seeing these diesels that I have. I enjoy each one of them. This 300 SD over here, 1979 model, I just love to go cruising in this. This is my favorite driving older Mercedes. It's quiet, it's smooth, and has a lot of power, because this has a 5-cylinder diesel that was first introduced in the US in 1978. And this is a beautiful car, only 167,000 miles. It's just a joy to drive. This one here, 1982 240D 4-speed, I just love driving these old manual transmission 240Ds. They're easy to work on, they're simple, you know, they're just great straightforward cars, but they're a little slow. But there's another problem they have, at least for me. And that problem doesn't have to do with speed, it has to do with something else. But I'm going to be, over the next couple of weeks, taking this 240D and pulling it into the shop, and I'm going to be making some modifications on this car to improve, which I feel was a weakness on the 240Ds. And you'll get to see those videos in the future. This one here is the infamous 300 TD turbo diesel station wagon. These cars are loved all over the world, and if you are looking at prices on these, you'll understand there's a lot of people that want these cars. You get a 3rd seat wagon with the hydraulic suspension working properly. These are great cars to haul a lot of weight in. And then over there is a 1980 300D non-turbo. Now you say, oh Kent, that's a dog. No, it's not, because it has such high compression. That car over there will start without pre-glowing. You can just get it and crank it, it'll start. Of course, it can't be down below freezing. But over there you see Tuxedo, we call it Tux for short, my 1959 180D. Now, I drive that car when I just want to go putt, putt, putt around the countryside, because it's not really a car that's going to keep up with modern freeway traffic. So I find reasons to drive these cars on different occasions. You know, if you own cars like this, you know you got to keep driving them. You can't just let them sit. I've got to monitor the batteries, keep battery tenders on them. I need to get them out at least every 30 days and take them for a run at least 20 minutes long. You don't want to just be starting them up and warm up the engine and then shut them off. That is not the way you want to protect these cars. You need to get out on the road and drive them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the hoods and let you see the difference of these engines. And of course, I'll put links below in show more of this video that'll take you to other videos I've done on these cars if you're interested in seeing more. My white 300 SD has the infamous 5-cylinder turbo diesel engine. Can you imagine 1978 when this was introduced in the US market? People were going nuts. How could you take a 5-cylinder engine, put a turbo on, and expect it to haul around this huge, heavy 4-door sedan? But this car gets up and really goes. It can stay right up there with modern traffic, gets excellent fuel economy. I can get up to 30 miles a gallon in this thing when cruising. And this engine is highly tuned. It just runs beautifully with the low mileage. The car's tight, steering's tight, so it makes this car a real joy to drive. I believe these old 4-cylinder 240D engines are one of the nicest automotive engines ever built, either gas or diesel. A combination of power, although not that much power. These can get up and keep up with freeway traffic, but it's just the reliability of these engines and the ease of working on them. Look at how much room you have to work on these engines. I think these old diesels, by the way, are a great car for someone to get started and to learn how to work on cars themselves. Both my sons started out driving 240D diesel Mercedes, and I think it made them better drivers because they had to anticipate. They had to think. Because you know you can't just pull out in front of traffic in these things without some sort of judgment. Because you do have to be a little careful pulling out in front of other people when you're driving a 240D. But you combine this 4-cylinder engine with the reliability of a 4-speed manual transmission. Even some of them had 5-speed transmissions. I mean, these are great cars which literally will go 1,000,000 miles if they're properly maintained. The engine in this black station wagon is also an OM 617 turbo diesel 5-cylinder engine, very similar to the engine in that white sedan. I don't think there's anyone that's been around these old Mercedes that won't tell you that probably the 1983 and 1984 300D turbos and 300TD turbos are probably one of the best Mercedes ever built. And this is what the engine looks like in the blue 300D non-turbo. This is a 1980 model. You can spot the difference right away by looking at the air filter housing. There's no turbo mounted on over this side of the engine. As I said earlier, if you get a good 300D non-turbo and it's tuned properly, with properly firing injectors and good compression, these cars can get up and move along. They're not as fast as a turbo, but once you get them up to speed, they're really nice cruisers. You know, Mercedes-Benz was a real pioneer of diesel engines in passenger cars, and this is what the 4-cylinder diesel engines look like in most of the diesel cars produced through the 1950s into the very early 1960s. Now, these engines don't produce a lot of power. You do have to anticipate other traffic while driving these cars, and they tend to be a little noisy. Now, I'm going to start this one up and let this one run a little bit so you can see what this one sounds like, and then I'm going to show you 20 years later when they introduced the turbo diesel engine, the huge improvement they made on both power and sound. So what's kind of comical, when I drive this old 180D, I'll pull into a fueling station or pull in somewhere and people say, "Hey buddy, there's something wrong with your engine. Sounds like you have a rod knock." So these definitely were not quiet engines, but they were extremely reliable. So 20 years later, this is what you're looking at. Remember, that old black 180D was produced in 1959, and this is a 1979 300SD. Now, I'm going to fire this engine up right now, and you will be amazed the difference in sound. Just listen to this. I'll put the mic up real close to it. So much smoother, so much quieter, and of course, way more powerful. This is a really sweet running engine with only 167,000 miles on it. This diesel is just barely broken in. So I think you got to see a little bit about the evolution of these cars and also the evolution of my own experience with Mercedes-Benz, which started out as a passion, then became a business. So this is really what we specialize in. If you have an old diesel or are thinking about getting an old diesel and you want to learn how to work on it yourself, then you need to visit Mercedessource.com, because this is the reason we exist. So now it's time to roll these things back into storage, and we'll be back out again in about 30 days.